to Sovereign Conversations with the Soul Attorney, the podcast where law, leadership, and liberation collide. I'm your host, Vanessa Cicero, lawyer, entrepreneur, energy worker, and your guide to building a business and life that's truly sovereign. Here, we challenge the status quo, outdated business rules, and explore what it really means to be sovereign in your life and work. Whether we're breaking down legal essentials, tapping into spiritual downloads and the power of intention, or we're having deep, unfiltered conversations with visionary entrepreneurs, healers, and thought leaders, every episode is designed to help you step into your power, protect what matters, and create your life on your own terms. So if you're ready to create a life and business rooted in belief, power, and purpose, take a deep breath, step into your sovereignty, because court is now in session. Oh, 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 oh. Welcome back to this week's episode of Sovereign Conversations with the Soul Attorney. I'm Vanessa Cicero, your host, and I'm so excited to dive into this solo episode today, where I'm going to be really reflecting on the theme of you belong in the room. Now act like it. This is such a huge thing that people, including myself in the past, have dealt with. A lot of women, in my experience and my own lived experience, I really dealt with imposter syndrome, and I hid in the corner, and I was afraid to use my voice and show up and take my seat at the table, offer my opinion and speak my mind. And so if you can resonate with any of those feelings of frustration, of not being heard, of not feeling like you deserve to be there, this episode is going to be for you. I'm really excited to dive in today because I'm coming off of the heels of wrapping up a 6-month program that I was a part of that was hosted through an organization where I sit as a secretary on the board of directors. In our community, it's a local South Georgian Bay Community Futures, where I'm the secretary on the board. And we arranged for this really incredible group of women in business coming together. It was called the Female Founders Network, hosted by Jill Proud, excellent facilitator, really, really beautiful group of women. And this program was like no other that I've ever experienced. And I've definitely attended and participated in, different masterminds and community courses and memberships and all of these things. And I'm going to be talking about that today, actually. But what made the FFN, the Female Founders Network, so special is that it was local, in person, and it was women of all ages, different business backgrounds, and different stages in their business, but all, past the launch stage and kind of getting into that like maturing in your business stage. And each stage of business, from what I've learned, like I'll be wrapping up my third year in business right now. Actually, it's my fiscal end. And holy moly, what a change the experience is at this point in time from when you're actually just getting started and coming out of the gate. And it was really special to be in a container where I felt like I kind of went from that startup to scale. So today I want to talk about getting in the room, owning your seat at the table, because as women, sometimes we don't see people like ourselves reflected in the tables we want to sit at, in the places we want to be. And it really takes a village. It takes a community to, inspire and empower us, especially if you're getting started in business or you're solo, to feel, like the audacity, like you have the courage to get out there and put yourself in the position where magic can happen. So, really, I want to talk about community. I want to talk about people. I want to talk about relationships, because in my life, if I hadn't put myself in the rooms to, try out, go for something, see what I could accomplish, then, I definitely wouldn't be here, wouldn't be on this podcast, wouldn't be, living the life I'm living today. So, especially when you're getting started in business and you're making the huge transition that is, going from a 9 to 5 role, where you're acting as an employee for someone else, to going out on your own in business, starting your own venture, making your own paycheck, especially if you're bootstrapping, especially if you don't have like seed funding and you're not, giving away equity in your business for the money. It's isolating, especially for women. It's like next level, especially for women who are building something unconventional. There's not a lot of examples out there for you to see yourself reflected in. And so what is so beautiful about finding your people, finding the community that is the right fit for you, is like others are able to reflect back to you what you can't see yourself. That feedback that really allows you to see how others see you, and, offer you questions that you may never have thought to ask yourself, that just like blow up every preconceived notion or of reality that you have. So those are some of the like really beautiful things about surrounding yourself with people who have different viewpoints than your own, who, have a different lived experience than your own, because the diversity in lived experiences and the subjectivity of how people interpret life, and how they interpret the same event, actually, right? Like, there's so many people in the world, and everybody's got their own version of the truth. So when you're out there in your own entrepreneurship bubble, it's really easy to fall down a hole and get into one of, a dark negative spiral, as you move through the ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship. And sometimes it's also really easy to get shiny object syndrome and get distracted by things that don't actually move the needle, but you think are important. And when you have a community of people that are there to hold space for you to say your dreams and your goals out loud, and to hold you accountable to achieving those goals, to taking action towards them, that is so powerful. It amplifies your own initial intention. So that feeling seen, and the ability to be real, be authentic, especially in a room and in a community where there's safety and a zone of confidence and trust and respect, that's huge. And so, whatever community you find or you need, and this podcast is about sovereignty, and I talk about entrepreneurship a lot, but sovereignty applies to all aspects of your life. Like, if you're talking about your personal life, maybe you need to surround yourself with a community that's going to support the life that you want to create in your health, for example, joining a gym community, or, a wellness community. Like, there's so many different types of communities. So whether it looks like going to a live event, going to a retreat, joining a membership, joining a whatever, going out to dinner, having a coffee, these little moments of connection are how we continue to build that inner confidence in our goals, in our ability to accomplish our goals. Because, if you go for coffee and you tell, your friend that, oh yeah, I'm working on this is, my big goal coming up. Well, the next time you see that friend, they're going to say, hey, how is that big goal going for you? And that's that little bit of accountability, that if we can amplify that and we can put ourselves in a position to, receive positive feedback or constructive criticism and continue to get better and have that growth mindset, then bam, right? You're already putting yourself in the right position. And then the next step, when you're in the room, when you're actually there, when you've actually, gained the courage to step outside your comfort zone, then what, right? Okay, Vanessa, I joined this group, or I did this, or bought the ticket to go. So then what? Well, now you have to have the audacity to put in the reps, to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable, and make no comfort zones your mantra. Taking up space, doing the things that your heart is screaming for you to do, but your brain is so afraid of because of all these other repercussions. I want to tell you a little story, the power of community, the power of showing up and putting in reps right here. Okay, I want to take you back to 2021. I was working at a law firm, and because of the pandemic, we had transitioned to working virtually for a bit. And then I ended up working in an office for a bit, but I didn't want to be in the office. I didn't want to provide legal services in the traditional way anymore. I just knew that, what I was doing working for somebody else wasn't going to be for me. And that internal struggle was crazy. And I didn't know what to do with all of the pent up frustration I was feeling and everything. And I was putting myself in the room with other female entrepreneurs, even before I was one, just to bear witness to the audacity that some of these women had that I didn't have the courage or the balls to have myself at the time, because my understanding and my beliefs of the way people made money and the way I existed in the economy was so limited that I didn't even have any idea that you could live your life like this until I actually saw and witnessed women doing it, and, put myself in the room. And there was an opportunity at a round table where, people were kind of throwing down some of their, challenges that they were going through. And I raised my hand. I've always been the one to, like, zero fucks, put my hand up, like, ask questions. I don't care. Like, I'm not ashamed to know that I know what I don't know, and know what I know and know what I don't know. And I've always loved, soaking in more, asking for feedback. So at that time, I put my hand up, really, really, like, vulnerable, moment, and shared how I was feeling about work and life and all of these things. And this was in front of a room of probably like 25, 30 women. I knew some, I didn't know everyone. And I was terrified because here I am, I'm a lawyer, a professional. I should have all my shit together and not, feel unhappy in my career. But I was feeling super unfulfilled as a lawyer in the work I was doing at the time. And, like, one or two of the women in the crowd just, like, stopped me, as I was, sharing, and said, "Vanessa, what's the worst that could happen?" And, like, mic drop moment. I'll never forget that, because that was a question that I refused to ask myself, because it made me, there was no answer that was bad enough that would feel as bad as I was feeling in the situation that I was in. So I never would have confronted the feeling and said, fuck the fear and do it anyway, if I hadn't have put myself in the room, if I hadn't have raised my hand, if I hadn't have shown up. And so that year, like I said, that was 2021. My mantra for the year was no comfort zones. And so after that happened that was like springtime, May, like, there's that this time of year, just as a sidebar, my birthday is this week. And this time of the year, springtime is like my new year. It's Aries season, brand new big energy. And after this happened at the end of May, I quit my job and started my law firm 5 days later. So I didn't have a plan. I didn't have anything ready to go, but I just knew, and I knew I'd been called out in that moment by, the elders in the group, the wisdom that was there. And I couldn't deny it any longer. The veil had been pulled over. And so putting myself in that scary position where I felt like a total imposter, like, what is this lawyer doing here in this room full of all these cool entrepreneur, these women who are living their lives, being creative, making an impact. And here I am just like, da, 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 like being a lawyer. But I had a vision for something greater, something that was outside of the box of traditional lawyering. And I wanted to, take a risk on myself, bet on myself. And I wouldn't have had the courage to do it if I hadn't been in a room where I could witness all these other women already doing it. And, something that landed so deeply, and I hope this resonates, is like, if she can do it, so can I. There's nothing stopping you from taking a kick at living your best life. And you don't have to jump, if in the example of business, you don't have to jump from a 9 to 5 to start your business 5 days later without a plan like I did. You can take your time. You can do it as a side hustle. You can learn, you can educate and empower yourself, and continue to put yourself in rooms and in situations and circumstances that make you feel super uncomfortable, because that is where your growth edge lies, right? Like when you are at the gym, you don't get results by going 2 days a week. You get results by going 4 days a week, 5 days a week. You get results by showing up. And so that is the same in business, in the gym, in the kitchen, in relationships, in your life. The saying, actions speak louder than words. So what are your goals and visions? How aligned are your actions with that today? And that is something that, like, God, we all, like, I'm the biggest one, we get all stuck in our own head about reaching those goals. And sometimes it takes having external accountability. It takes having someone, there to support your trust, your grit, your consistency, putting in the reps. Like, it's always great to have a gym buddy, or, have somebody in your life and in your business that's gonna help you stay accountable. And, there, like I've been saying this whole episode, there are different types of relationships, different people, different groups that all have different intentions. And so something that I've also learned is super important is, like, don't go looking for something from someone that they're not meant to be giving you. I go to certain people for certain types of advice, or to have certain types of conversations that I won't go to other certain people for. And you just have to know your audience. You have to know that you are putting yourself in the right rooms. And, this is another thing that is so huge, because, like, we have to choose the right room to be in, choose the right place to be putting those reps in. And, that's something that I think about. Like, habits are the bricks that we stack our life with. They're the bricks that we build the foundation of our everyday with, our actions, our thoughts, even before our actions. And so when you're making decisions about who to surround yourself with, how to, gain the confidence to put yourself in the position to show up in the rooms or do the things that give you success. It takes identifying what your goals are, what your values are, and finding other people who feel the same way, and, going from there, putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. For me, that really allowed me to feel like I belonged in those rooms. And I've been in a lot of rooms where I felt like I didn't belong. And that actually helped me on my journey, because if I had forced myself to stay in a room where I didn't belong, in a firm where I didn't belong, in a business or a relationship or a friendship or a, like with you name it, like, I think as an Aries, maybe it's an Aries thing, maybe it's a me thing. But when something's not working, you just got to let it go and find the right community that is aligned with what is right for your heart and your goals. And you deserve to feel like you belong in whatever room you choose to be in now, without having to change, without having to earn it, without having to martyr yourself to fit in or deserve it. Because when you're in the room with your people, you don't have to wear a mask, and you shouldn't have to hide your authenticity. And I feel really strongly about that. And that is something that I personally have, struggled with since becoming a professional and becoming a lawyer. This idea that lawyers act a certain way, that there is a certain, gravitas or whatever you want to call it that I'm supposed to have when, I'm just Vanessa, I'm not anybody different than who I was before I started doing this job. And I was tired of trying to like hide all of the rest of me just to like be this pretend version of the lawyer Vanessa. So this whole podcast, this whole journey of legal empowerment, trying to break barriers and make legal accessible for people, for women who are trying to change their lives, empower themselves, gain a little bit of security, freedom. That's why I'm so passionate, because I want you to feel like whatever room you step into, you belong there. You can stand at the front of the room and speak your piece and give your position and make your needs known without fear of not being accepted or not having that sense of belonging, because your people are out there. You belong here just by nature of being here. So my goal, my dream, my passion for today is to inspire you to find your community, find your people, because this whole life thing, this whole entrepreneurship thing, especially in the crazy times we're living in right now, this is not meant to be something that we do alone. This is meant to be something that we do surrounded by a village, a community, people who love us, people who support us, people who want to empower us to get to the next level, to live a life that is the fullest expression of their, like, oh, you're being like, you're a flower, you're blooming, be the most beautiful bloomed flower that you can be. So you want to have people in your life that support you to bloom and support you to be that most vibrant and alive version of yourself. So not any kind of hard CTA here. This is just me inviting you that if you're looking for a community, I really would invite you to reach out to me, and I will connect you with Jill Proud about the Female Founders Network. It's running in Collingwood once a month during the summer, and is sponsored by the Georgian Bay Community Futures, who are hosting it. That was a mistake. They're not sponsoring it. They're hosting it. And it's so, so great. So if that is something that you're interested, please let me know. This community here, is all about making you feel held, supported. And there are so many other amazing ways that you can join in community and find a community if you feel like you're missing one, or you feel like you want to join one and reach out. In the Soul Attorney universe, you can join, the email newsletter list. You can attend a Legal Eats dinner. You can join the Cornerstone membership community. There are so many ways that you can connect and feel held. I'm here for you. The community is here for you. And this is not something we're meant to do alone. So with that in mind, I want you to know that you belong in the room. You should act like it. Own your seat at the table. Have the audacity, have the risk, have the courage to just step outside your comfort zone and go get what you want in your life today. And with that, my friends, court is now in recess. Oh, 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 oh. That's a wrap for this episode of Sovereign Conversations with the Soul Attorney. If today's conversation sparked something in you, let's keep that momentum going. Head on over to www.thesoulattorney.com to grab free resources, explore my membership community, The Cornerstone, and step even deeper into your power. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, my friends, keep leading, keep trusting, and keep building your empire on your own terms. See you soon.